Well, I think it's early, but I think the key here, one of the things that I think has been really promising is that society needs a network of different institutions that it feels like are legitimate or have some legitimacy for making decisions in order to basically accept the decisions and feel like they're fair. And I think one basic issue that we've found ourselves in is that there's just no way that any single private company should be responsible for arbitrating so many questions of social values, right? Between free expression and safety, or locking things down to ensure privacy versus making sure that the marketplace can be open and competitive, right? It's like these are real issues, and there's equities on all sides, and there's no single decision that any company can make on any of them that I think is going to be universally accepted. So I think therefore you really want to not set up a situation where one company is kind of has to make a lot of these decisions by themselves. That's why I wanted to create this oversight board. I recognize that we're always going to have to be kind of the first line, and we're going to be responsible for making the moderation decisions on our platform. But I kind of thought it was important that we shouldn't have the final say in the most important decisions, and that there was like a different body. It's the judicial analogy is something like a Supreme Court, although obviously, there are all these differences here. But something that people can appeal to, and that we can also refer some of the most complicated cases to, and that they can make the final and binding judgment on that. And one of the things that we've seen that I think has been interesting is that it does seem like there's a little bit more acceptance when the oversight board weighs in on something complicated than when we just do it ourselves. And I think part of that was we put a lot of thought into making sure that the people who are on the oversight board are kind of world renowned in terms of a focus on human rights, really focused on free expression as well, because at the end of the day, these platforms are about giving people a voice, diverse, spanning a large portion of the globe. But it wasn't obvious that it's legitimacy isn't like a binary thing. It's not like either it's completely rejected or it's completely accepted by everyone. We were mindful in setting this up, and I think the oversight board has also done a good job itself in kind of managing its independence. It is a completely independent organization from us, and it has to be. And kind of its independence is super important for its continued legitimacy. Overall, I'd say I'm sort of optimistic about how it's going, but I think building that sort of trust and legitimacy also takes time. It's not like a thing that you can just turn on in a year and then all of a sudden people will be like, okay, this thing exists, great. It's going to be, it making decisions, it often overruling us or rebuking us on things, and people seeing that we respect its independence and its authority and going and implementing that. That's, I think, how it basically builds legitimacy over time. But I think as an institution, it's really important that we have this kind of independent function. Of course, over time, having clearer rules set in kind of democratically elected Congress would be, I think, the most useful thing. And we're getting that more or less in different parts of the world. Obviously, it's a little harder in the United States. The First Amendment is great, so I'm obviously hugely supportive of the First Amendment. But I think that makes it harder for anyone in the United States to basically create or craft different regulations that kind of weigh in on some of these trade-offs. But I do think over time, people will kind of there will be a balance that is struck across all of this, and I think that this is all part of that moving towards that equilibrium.
You mentioned Cheryl